There is a glass jar sitting on a kitchen windowsill in half the houses in this country right now. Inside that jar is an avocado pit held up over the... Maybe there is one on your own windowsill this morning. Maybe you have raised 3 or 4 of them over the years. The pit cracks open. A white root reaches down into the water. A green shoot climbs up toward the window light. Yeah? For a few months, it feels like a small miracle. And then somewhere between the jar and the garden, that little tree dies. It happens so reliable. Most folks, at least not in a place like Ohio. But here is what I learned from my Amish neighbors. The tree was never the problem. The jar was, there is a way to start. That very same grocery store pit in plain potting soil, following the same patient principles my neighbors use on everything from tomatoes to apples, and end up with a strong, healthy avocado tree even in the north. Because the reason that toothpick trick almost always ends in a dead tree comes down to one specific thing about roots that grow in water, and once you hear it, you will never start a pit in a jar again. I'm Bill, though most folks online know me as I garden on a little piece of land in rural Ohio right alongside an Amish settlement. In those neighbors, I have spent 30 years learning hard lessons in my own back. I spent too many of those years fighting my garden with a rota and a shelf full of chemicals. Most of what I share I learned across the fence from my friend Daniel. Now let me be straight with you before we go one step further, because I think you deserve that. You will not find avocado orchards in Amish. My neighbors grow what suits Ohio ground corn and hay and big kitchen gardens full of tomatoes, cabbage, and beans. Daniel has never sold an avocado in his life. But when my own windowsill avocado died years ago, the 3rd one in a row, I mentioned it to him over the fence, and his answer had nothing to do with avocado. He said I had raised that little tree in a world it was never going to live. That one sentence applies to every plant, and it is the backbone of everything I am going to show you today, because the avocados at the grocery store are not getting cheap. Around here, they run about $2 a piece, and a family that loves them can go through $200 or $300 of avocados in a year. Meanwhile, the pit, the one part of that fruit that could become a tree, goes straight into the trash or up on toothpicks over a jar, where it is doomed before it starts. Hold on to that question about the roots in the water, because it is the whole reason this method works, and I promise we are coming back to it before we are done. Now, everything I'm about to show you today is really one branch of a much bigger system. I wrote that whole system down in a book called The 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Pro. It is the complete old world system I learned from my Amish neighbors for building a garden that defends itself from pests without a single chemical, laid out that any home gardener can follow one day at a time. It covers the 5 reasons modern gardens attract pests and Amish gardens do not. The 5 defense layers of a garden that protects itself. The 7 foundations and the setup, and then the full 30 days week by week from kill nothing. Build everything all the way to the self-defending garden. There are 117 pages in it, including seed saving, hand tools, preserving the harvest, and a common pest. It costs $17, marked down from $47, which is less than 1 bottle of the spray I used to buy again. Go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, same one you used to take pics. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a sec. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let's get our hands dirty and start. Step 1 is choosing your pit, and it starts in the produce aisle of your own grocery. Pick a ripe avocado, one that gives just slightly when you press, because a fully ripened fruit carries a fully matured seed. When you cut it open, work the pit out gently with a spoon instead of stabbing it with the knife, because a deep cut into the pit can kill the little plant sleeping inside. Take pit to the sink and rinse it in cool water until the slip. Scrub it hard. Do not peel away the brown. Here is the part almost nobody tells you. Well, A fresh avocado pit is a living, and it wants to be planted within about 1 week. That is 1 week, 7 days, and sooner is better. While you are getting your pot ready, keep the pit wrapped in a damp paper towel on the kitchen counter. Now look closely at the shape of it. One end is slightly pointed like the top of an egg, and one end is flatter and broad. The pointed end is the top, the flat end is the bottom where the roots will come out. Pointed end up, flat end down. I will say that once more, because planting it upside down is the single most common reason a healthy pit never sprouts. Pointed end up, flat end down. Step 2 is where we part ways with the toothpick jar for good, because we are starting this pit in soil from the very first day. Get yourself a 6-inch clay pot. That is a 6-inch pot, not a big tub, because a small pot dries out properly between waterings. Fill it with a good bag potting. Then work in 2 generous handfuls of finished compost, the dark crumbly kind from the bottom. Pit flat end down into that soil and press so that the bottom 2/3 is buried and the top third of the pit sits above the soil line, bare to the air. The top third stays exposed. If you bury the whole pit, it can rot before it ever wakes up. Water the pot slowly at the kitchen sink until water runs out of the drainage hole. Then set it somewhere warm. Avocado pits wake up between 7, so the top of a refrigerator or a warm sunny room works fine. Now comes the first real lesson from across the fence, which is patience. That pit may sit there looking like a stone for 2 weeks. It may sit there for 8 weeks. 2 to 8 weeks is completely normal and there is no rush. Daniel put it better than I ever could. He told me, and the gardener's job is to keep the conditions right and let it read. That calendar in peace. Keep the soil lightly moist, never soggy, and wait. But a strong sprout can still be wasted, because the next mistake is the one I made for years, and it comes in a bag. Step 3, feed the soil and not the plant. In my chemical years, I would have that first green shoot with a scoop of 10-10-10 for those blue-white granules from the 50-pound bag in my garage. That synthetic fertilizer is exactly how because a seedling's tender roots cannot handle that concentrated salt. My Amish neighbors do not feed their plants at all, not directly. They feed the soil, and the soil feeds the plants. The same way it has worked in the woods behind my house for 10,000 years without anyone hauling a bag into the tree. For your young avocado, that means one thing. Once a month during the growing, spread a 1/2-inch layer of finished compost right on top of the soil in the pot. Get 1 inch back from the trunk itself. That is a 1/2 inch of compost once a month and nothing. Every time you water, a little of that compost feeds down into the root zone, slow, gentle, the way the garden was never supposed to be a war. And it was never supposed to be a chemistry set. If you want a picture of the difference, my old fertilized plants grew fast, pale, and weak, like a child raised on candy. The compost-fed ones grow slower and darker green with thick stems that shrug off trouble. Slow and strong beats fast and fragile every single time. Step 4 is the watering rhythm. And this is where more indoor avocado trees die than anywhere else. Avocados come from well-drained hillsides, and their roots hate sitting in a swamp. So the rule is simple: water deeply and water rarely. When you do water, do it slowly at the sink until water runs freely out of so the whole root ball. Then leave it completely alone. And you check that with the oldest moisture meter in the world, which is your own finger. Push your finger into the soil down to the second knuckle, about 2 inches. If you feel any coolness or dampness at 2 inches, walk away and check again in a few days. Only water when those top. That might mean once a week in summer and once every 2 weeks in the middle of winter, and both of those are fine because the finger decides, not the calendar. One more on an avocado, yellowing leaves almost always mean too much water, not too little. Our instinct when a plant looks sad is to reach for the watering can. With this, when you see yellow, put the can down and check the soil first. Step 5 is light, and it comes with the single best habit I ever picked up from my neighbor, which is the morning walk. Your avocado wants the brightest spot you have, and indoors, that means a south-facing window where it can catch 6 hours of sun a day. That is 6 hours, and a bit more never hurt it. Then, once spring settles in and the last frost date for your area has passed, this tree gets to spend the summer outdoors on the porch or the patio, and it will reward you for it. But you cannot carry it straight from the living room into full June sunshine, because a window-raised leaf will sunburn just like a fair-skinned fellow on his first day at the lake. So you harden it off over 1 full week. Set it in bright shade for a couple. Then give it morning sun only for a couple more. Then ease it into the full day. 1 week gradual, and there is no rush at all. And every morning, indoors or out, walk past that tree with your coffee and simply look at it for 10 seconds. Daniel walked just to see. New leaves, leaf color, soil, whisper, and the morning walk is how you hear the whisper. And keep holding that question about the jar and the roots, because when we get there, you will understand exactly why this soil-raised tree handles the move outdoors. So step 6 happens when your young tree reaches 12 inches tall, and I will warn you now, it takes a little courage. Left alone, a pit-grown avocado wants to grow as one skinny bare pole racing for the ceiling. One thin stem with a tuft of leaves on top, weak and ugly and easy to snap. So when the main stem reaches 12 inches, you are going to pinch about the length of a ruler. Take clean fingernails or a small pair of scissors, nip taking off about the top ½ inch of the stem. It feels wrong the first time cutting the top off a baby tree you waited 2 months, but that pinch tells the tree to stop building a pole and start building a frame. Within a few weeks, buds lower down the stem will wake up and push outside. You will be on your way to a full, bushy little tree instead of a bean pole. Every time a new branch itself grows, another pinch its tip the same way. My neighbors prune their fruit trees on this same principle every year, shaping the tree while it is young, because an ounce of shaping in the first year saves a sawing job in the 10th. Step 7 is the one that makes this whole thing possible in a place like an Ohio winter in the ground and otherwise, because a hard freeze will kill it. So this tree lives its whole life in a container, and the container is what sets it free. As it grows over the years, we'll move it up 1 pot size at a time. And once it is in anything bigger than a 12-inch pot, do yourself a favor and set that pot on a rolling plant caddy, one of those little wheeled platforms from the hardware. That costs about $15. Your back will thank you every October. The rule for timing is simple. When the overnight temperatures start dipping toward 50 degrees Fahrenheit, the tree comes inside. That is 50 degrees at night, and do not wait for the first frost warning, because avocados start sulking long before freezing. Indoors, it goes right back to that bright south-facing window, but away from the heat vents and the wood stove, because hot, dry air blasting the leaves will brown them at the edge. If your house runs dry in winter, set the pot on a wide tray of pebbles with a little water in the bottom, keeping the pot itself up on the pebbles and out of the water. Expect the tree to drop a few leaves after each move in fall. And again in spring. That is not dying. That is adjusting. Like step 8, keeping the pests off without 1 drop of chemical spray, because this is where everything my neighbors taught me comes together. Indoors over winter. The pest you are most likely to meet on an avocado is the spider, speck, faded look on top. This is exactly what the morning walk is for, because caught in the first week, spider mites are a chore, and caught in the 2nd month, they are a plague. The old-fashioned fix is water and soap. Set the whole tree in the shower and rinse it well, tops and bottoms of the leaves, with lukewarm water. Then mix 1 teaspoon of plain mild dish soap into 1 quart of water in a spray bottle. That is 1 teaspoon per quart, no stronger, because stronger burns leaves. The undersides of the leaves, wait a week, walk past it every morning, and repeat if you see them again. Outdoors in summer, the tree joins the same layered defense the rest of my garden lives under, where flowering plants like dill and sweet alyssum nearby keep the ladybugs and lacewings fed, and those little allies patrol your avocado for free. It's not about fighting, it's about working with it. I spent years spraying poison at every bug and all I ever did was kill the guards along with the thief. Before we get to the answer I promised you, to have the honest talk about fruit, because I will not sell you a dream I would not buy myself. A tree grown from a grocery store pit is a slow road to an avocado. It can take 10 years or more to flower, sometimes 15, because grocery avocados come from grafted orchard trees. Your pit tree's fruit may not taste like the fruit it came from. Homegrown avocados on a schedule are the real goal. The sensible move is to also buy a small grafted avocado tree from a nursery, usually somewhere between $40 and $80, which can fruit in 3 to 4 years in a container. So why grow the pit at all? Because the pit costs nothing, teaches you every principle in this video on a tree you cannot really ruin. Makes a handsome houseplant along the way, and every so often it surprises somebody with fruit worth bragging. My neighbors plant trees they may never sit under for children who are not born. Little of that patience is worth more than the avocado. That brings us to the part I promised you at the start. The real reason the toothpick jar kills those windows. When a pit sprouts suspended over a jar, every root it grows is a water. Water root is built for the world. Water roots grow soft, pale, and brittle because they never have to push through, and more importantly, they grow almost none of the root hair. Fine fuzz along a soil root. That does nearly all. And feeding a plant does. In water, the root doesn't need root hairs because it is swimming in its meal. There sits your beautiful jar tree, 6 months old, with a root system perfectly designed for a world made of water. Then comes the proud day you transplant it into a pot of soil, and in that single afternoon, every root it owns becomes the wrong. Those soft water roots snag and tear in the soil. They cannot pull moisture from damp earth the way soil roots do, and the tree begins slowly to die of thirst while sitting in perfectly wet soil. You water it more because it looks thirsty, and now the broken roots rot on top. The tree was never weak. It was raised in a nursery it could never leave, just like Daniel said. Start the pit in soil from day one. Every root it ever grows is a soil root, tough, hairy, and red. And the move to the porch, the bigger pot, the years ahead never shocks it at all. That is the heart of what Daniel taught. Raise every plant in the world it is actually going to live in, and it will hardly ever need rescuing. The book is that idea carried through the whole garden, 30 days of it, layer by layer, so the entire place starts defending itself the way it is called the 30-day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. It is $17 instead of $47, less than the spray. Same. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So remember the short version. Fresh pit, planted in soil from day one, pointed end up with the top third bare. Compost instead of fertilizer. Water by the 2-inch finger test. Pinch at 12 inches indoors before nights hit. Now tell me in the comments if you have ever started an avocado pit on tooth and what happened to that little tree, because I have a feeling I already know. I read every single one. Next time I'm going to show you the $2 kitchen staple my Amish neighbors mix into a bucket of water to keep squash bugs from ever touching us, and the 1 hour of the day it has to go down to work. Work with nature, not against it.